I'm Dr. Deborah Dean. As Dr. John has alluded to, my passion is helping others integrate their faith at work. And I truly try to help people nourish their soul and the souls of others through their work. I've spent years doing research, teaching, and publishing on this topic, and it's just one that I'm super passionate about because we hear a lot about the strategies and the logistics of business. So you have tons of folks that know how to put together schedules and timelines and budgets, but we often neglect or forget the people part of business or ministry. And so that's where I come in, is to help us remember to feed each other and nourish the souls in the workplace and in your ministry. So imagine with me for a moment that it's early in the morning. You're outside with your favorite morning beverage, soaking in the sunrise, listening to the birds chirping, and feeling the newness of the day wash across your face, and feeling connected to God in a way that makes you feel like it's just you and Him. For me, this feeling of oneness with God is nourishment for my soul. And I can tell you right now, I'm in Kentucky, and I'm so missing the mountains. So we have a special place right there in Colorado Springs. It energizes me. It truly helps me focus my day, but it's brief. You know, it's brief when we stand there and we look at the mountains and we just realize God's beauty and God's majesty in His creation. It's brief because then the busyness of the day happens. So when we integrate our faith at work, we call this workplace spirituality, which by definition is a recognition of an inner life that's nourished by meaningful work that takes place in the context of community. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a bit. But basically, research shows that we're no longer content with going to work and parking our souls at the door. People want to come to work and have our whole self, our body, heart, mind, and our soul. And the Gallup organization, the one that you probably are familiar with because they do StrengthsFinder, they went back and reviewed research of 25 years, over 80,000 participants, and what they found was that pay and benefits are like tickets to a ballpark. They can get you in, but they can't help you win. And you probably see that with your ministry, especially if you're working with volunteers, because you're not offering pay and benefits. So there's truly something special when you can offer something else that's going to feed their soul or nourish these people that are coming to help you. All right, so let's first clarify the problem. And I like how Dr. John made a list up there of who you're serving. So now we can take a look at that list and look at who are we serving and what sort of pressure are we receiving from this. We probably have pressure from our work if you're working a full-time job in addition to doing ministry, or maybe your ministry is your full-time job. You may have pressure from family and school. You know, what are you going to do with school? Are you going to send the kids back? Are you going to homeschool? And then the election and the virus and the forest fires, there's just all of this anxiety and fear and stress and pressure in a normal daily life. And then add to that the pressure of ministry with the children, volunteers, parents, and staff. So I understand that right now this is a critical time for you as you're trying to figure out what we're supposed to do next. From my research, I've had a few complaints, or I've heard a few complaints. The first is, how can we prepare our ministry so people won't be afraid to show up? And we're going to talk about that in a bit, especially when Julie comes up. But how can we reduce their fear and anxiety? And to remember that we need to think about that list that John has on the board. How can we reduce the fear and anxiety for each one of those people? The children, the families, our community, everybody. The second argument is that the church is not opening fast enough. And I think Julie's going to talk some about that, as well as the third debate, the church is opening too soon. So how do we do this? And then I want to hear from you with this, what your fears, anxiety, your stress is. Please take a moment Take a deep breath because we have been giving you all sorts of information. And think about what's causing you stress and anxiety. What's causing you worry or fear or pressure in relation to your ministry? On the slide here, I have Slido.com. So if you want to pull out your phone and go to Slido.com and enter the keyword soul, you can text me right now and let me know, what are you thinking? What are you anxious about, worried about, fearful about? And this is, you'll notice that all comments are anonymous in this. So it'll give you a chance to speak up, even if you're a little bit fearful about speaking up. Or you can save your comments for later because we will have the Q&A session at the end. Again, that's Slido.com and use the keyword soul. Okay, now in your handout, the Nourishing Your Soul handout, we're going to walk through this. And what I'd like for you to do is just take a deep breath again and kind of forget about all that worry and stress and anxiety and everything that we've told you for a moment, because I want to focus on you. All right, so this image shows soil or dirt, and I equate this to our soul. If a soil of a plant is dry and nutrient deficient, nothing can grow in it. And I like to talk about the parable of the sower here. So in Matthew 13, it says, a farmer went out to sow his seed. As he was scattering the seed, some fell along the path, and the birds came and ate it up. Some fell on rocky places where it did not have much soil. It sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow. But when the sun came up, the plants were scorched, and they withered because they had no root. Other seed fell among thorns, which grew up and choked the plants. Still other seed fell on good soil, where it produced a crop, 160 or 30 times what was sown. So I want to talk about having good soil. And let's talk about replenishing your inner self, your soul, your spirituality, your being. If I were to send a soil sample off today of you and see what the analysis would be, would you have a nutrient-rich soil, or would it be depleted of nutrients? So think about what feeds you spiritually. Think back to this morning sunrise with God. Would that feed your soul? What else would feed your soul? Maybe just taking a deep breath in the middle of the day, or walking outside and taking a hike. For me, I love going to worship concerts or exercising. Even journaling helps me nourish my soul. Worship music or walking or praying, those types of things. So think about that. It's specific for you, but what helps you nourish your soul? And then how often are you nourishing your soul too? Think about that. Now with this picture, we're looking at our root-bound plant. And if you planted anything earlier this year, you pulled it out of the package, it probably looked like this. So assuming we have healthy soil to put this in, let's just take a look at our roots of our plants. If they're all bound up and restricted, the pot was too small. Just like if we're all bound up and restricted with where we are at, we can't flourish. So we need to make sure that we have a healthy soil and a healthy root system. Imagine that these roots are our purpose. And just as roots want a big enough pot to grow in, we need the right setting so we can have a bigger impact. If we have this spaghetti maze of roots, we can't focus. So we need that determination and dedication for our roots to really have clear purpose. The intentional purpose helps us find meaning in what we do. And with all of my research, I found that meaningful work is one of the top three, and I'll share with you the other two in a minute, but one of the top three predictor variables for engaged employees or volunteers, committed employees or volunteers, and satisfied employees and volunteers is having meaningful work. All right. So with this picture, this is the stem of our plant. And you'll see that on your worksheet. We have a beautiful flower there, and this is your stem. So when our stem is nice and straight and healthy, it's like channeling our energy from our root system up into the flower part of the plant. And this is where we get the passion and the energy. The stem part, it gives that clear direction, but in order to have this really nice stem that's healthy with clear channeled energy for our passion, we still need to have that healthy soil and healthy roots. Now, the leaves of your plant represent your gift. And the way leaves convert sunlight into energy, your gift converts passion and purpose into your daily life. Through your gifts, you bring purpose and passion to the world. So think about that too. Your gifts are your skills, talents, personal traits, your wisdom, your abilities. I wonder though, do you truly know what your gifts are? Or if you're like me, I used to just do anything anybody would ask me to do. I didn't know that I had a special gift. So think about that, kind of ponder on that, and I'd love to help you identify your spiritual gift. I actually have an assessment that can help with that. So I relate the proper use of our gifts to working smarter, not harder. And Ecclesiastes 10:10 says, if the axe is dull, and one does not sharpen the edge, then he must use more strength. But wisdom brings success. So just like this, if we're using our gifts, or if we're using this sharpened axe, we're working smarter and not harder. When your purpose is clear and your passion grows, you'll be able to use your gifts as an offering to the world. Okay, so the middle of the flower is called a pistil. And in the pistil, it has the stigma, style, and ovary. So this is kind of a complex part of the flower, but it's needed for the reproduction of the flower, just like with us, with our service. And I consider the pistil service. So we want to make sure that we align our gifts and purpose and passion for the service. At this stage, just as the pistil is complex and has many parts and many responsibilities, though, it's important that we set boundaries. And because we want to make sure we're aligning our spiritual gifts for the right purpose, and that we're not just trying to be all things to all people. So this part, this is really where we take action. And it's so, so important that for us to work smarter and not harder, we have to carve out those boundaries and know, just like John was talking about earlier with the different job responsibilities. If you have someone in your ministry that's really good in a certain area, let them shine with that. That's their gift. And then they can delegate the other tasks that they need to someone else who has gifts for those responsibilities. All right, so the flower petal, this represents greatness. And when our gifts are flourishing and they're spreading God's love to others, we smile because we see greatness in ourselves and others. It's so fabulous when I see people that are truly using their gift. My son used to have a kindergarten teacher, and she was just amazing, and I knew it. And I've seen workers like this in our churches that you just know they are gifted with children's ministry, and they are truly using their God-given gift, and it just makes you smile, right? So when I see beautiful flowers, I also smile. It reminds me of God's beautiful creation, his perfect creation, his perfect plan. And this flower, this petal represents the greatness of having healthy spiritual soil, healthy roots, a streamlined stem for channeling our passion, and energy to do the work. So let the beauty of who you are be what you do. And remember to enforce those boundaries, because we can't be all things to all people. If we're doing too much, it will quickly deplete the nourishment of our soil. So working spiritually is about fulfilling your life purpose or larger mission with passion, using your gifts in service to others. In doing so, others pick up on your beauty and the gifts and smile. But my warning to you is this, to be careful. If anyone's ever tried to grow a plant, you know it can wither very quickly. It can die very quickly if it's not getting the routine care and attention it needs. And we're the same. If we're not tending to each one of these parts, our soil, our roots, our stem, every part of our soul, then we can wither too. And then we're not serving others with the best of our ability. So to take stock of that is super important, and maybe even do that in a daily journal or a weekly journal or a weekly touch base with friends. So with this beautiful flower, we need to nourish our soil, tend to our roots to keep the weeds out and give the roots enough room to flourish. We need to channel our energy and purpose through our straight stem for clear direction on what we're doing. And we need to identify our spiritual gifts and use them to honor and glorify God, delegating the rest to others who have those spiritual gifts to fulfill the needs. And we need to set boundaries with our service to make sure we focus our gifts to serve others and avoid toxic or abusive situations that quickly deplete or deplete the nourishment of our soil. So I'm glad we're all here together, and I like how Dr. John talked about the XP merge, where he brings people together on a routine basis, and I hope we can continue to do this where we meet more frequently, either together as a group as we are or in small groups, just to make sure that we're using our gifts the way God intended, and make sure that we have that sense of community. So I said I had three variables, predictive variables that help with a happy workplace. And those are a sense of community, as we have now, meaningful work, and agapeo love. So those three areas, in all my research, those three areas are the ones that can significantly predict the happy workplace, engaged employees, job satisfaction, and organizational commitment. I want to encourage you to connect with each other and support one another. If you do see someone's soil depleting, let them know it's time to take a break and join God for another sunrise with their favorite beverage. And to help you with this endeavor, I'm offering a checkup. So Dr. John has another handout that he'll give you. But if you can contact me, I'd like to connect with you before the end of August, because I think that'll be, your peak time. But let's connect. I want to help you find out what your spiritual gifts are and learn about how God created you for greatness. I also want to pray with you and find out how I can support you this season. So this content in my presentation was inspired by Linda Ferguson. This is her book. Early in my scholarly research for my dissertation, I read about Linda and just fell in love with the simplicity. And this is her drawing here, basically what we just walked through. But it's a great image to remember that we must tend to our soil and our purpose and our passion and greatness and service. So I actually used to have this cut out on my desk at work. And in conclusion, I want to encourage you with this. You're not alone. As the 2-decade trend to spend more time at work increases, we actively seek opportunities for meaning, purpose, and a sense of community and belonging from our work. So you're not alone. We have people all around the globe that have been starving for this for years. This trend has been identified as a spiritual awakening in the American workplace and is becoming known as today's greatest mega trend, that we aren't there just for a paycheck or just for a pat on the back. There is more to life, and we want to nourish our soul and have that meaningful work and connection. All right, so along with our presentation here, again, Dr. John and Mary, I believe, are passing out my handout. This is a complimentary service to you. Please take advantage of that. There are no strings attached. I truly just want to see how I can serve you